Hello guys, welcome back, and today we're going to talk about Phil Kessel and the Pittsburgh Penguins potentially trading him. Now, Elliotte Friedman reported that the Pittsburgh Penguins were testing the market, in quotes, for Phil Kessel, and this begs the question, will we see a trade, and which teams should be interested in Phil Kessel? Now, first off, when it comes to the Pittsburgh Penguins, they've arguably been one of the most aggressive teams when it comes to trades so far this season. We've seen a lot of rumors around the Pittsburgh Penguins. We've seen a lot of trades actually happen with the Pittsburgh Penguins. So when we see this Phil Kessel rumor come into fruition, I'm really not surprised because the Penguins have seemed to be almost inquiring about everybody. Besides Crosby and Malkin, they've been open to almost any kind of trade. A couple of weeks ago, we saw that Tanner Pearson for Carl Hagelin trade. Just recently this week, we saw the Daniel Sprong for Marcus Peterson trade. So obviously, Pittsburgh is not afraid to make moves, and we saw that earlier with this new Phil Kessel rumor. So, what is this new rumor? Well, when it comes to what happened, Elliotte Friedman ended up reporting that the Pittsburgh Penguins were testing the market when it came to Phil Kessel and his trade negotiations, and what the really value would be out there for a guy like Phil Kessel. Now, that isn't really rare, because we have seen Pittsburgh do that in the past. Of course, trading for Phil Kessel a few years ago, but they were linked with the Arizona Coyotes for a trade for Phil Kessel back a year ago. So when it comes to trades and trades around Phil Kessel, this isn't new for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Now, that trade ended up not happening whatsoever, but there still was a giant rumor about that, and Phil Kessel himself had to address that trade rumor. So it was a big deal, and Pittsburgh obviously before has been known to be checking out trades and Phil Kessel's availability on the trade market. So that really isn't new, and when I heard this information, it didn't really surprise me, especially with where the Penguins are in the standings. Now, when it comes to the Pittsburgh Penguins record, it has not gone as planned to what Pittsburgh Penguins were expecting going into this season. Now, it hasn't been terrible, it hasn't been LA Kings bad, but it's not been up to what the expectations were for the Penguins coming into this season. Now, right now, they're at an 11-10-5 record, and again, while that is decent, the Penguins obviously want to be a lot better than that, and they obviously want to be contending for the playoffs, and they want to be in the playoffs. Right now, they're not even in a playoff spot, and that sparked some red flags for the whole management there. And having that record that's been pretty underwhelming for them has been a reason why they've been so active in the trade market and why so many guys have been on the rumor mill. That's why we've seen recently some trades and some moves by the Pittsburgh Penguins is because of that lackluster record compared to the records that they had in the past. And with Pittsburgh, they've shown that they're not afraid to make big moves. Of course, Jim Rutherford especially is not afraid to make big moves. So when it comes to Phil Kessel possibly being on the trade block, or him being available for a trade, I'm honestly not surprised, because we've been past this route, especially before, and I won't be surprised if we see more rumors again. Now, so far, Phil Kessel's season with the Pittsburgh Penguins has gone pretty solidly. In 26 games so far, he has 29 points. Very solid season for him so far, being above a point per game. He is really producing, and there is no problem there, which does raise the flags on why Pittsburgh would even be considering trading him. I mean, 29 points in 26 games is about as good as you're going to get, especially with Phil Kessel, who has had some slow starts, at least recently in his career. Now, if what Elliotte Friedman said was true, which it most likely is because Friedman is a pretty reliable reporter, but if Elliotte Friedman and what he said was true, that's pretty big news. Because with the Pittsburgh Penguins, it's not like they're just putting him on the trade block. It's not like they're just making him available for trade. They're actively seeing the value and the interest of Phil Kessel. Which doesn't just mean that they're kind of on 50-50 on the fence about trading him. They're interested in a possible Phil Kessel trade. So, while I don't think that a trade is necessarily going to happen, I wouldn't count it out either, because Pittsburgh, obviously with that quote from Elliotte Friedman, are interested in a possible trade. Now, for the details on Phil Kessel's contract, he's currently at a $6.8 million cap hit. Of course, the Toronto Maple Leafs getting 1.2 in retain for that for quite a while. And when it comes to years, he has 3 more years after this year still on his contract. So it is a beefy contract, and I think he's 31 years old right now. So he's going to get into his mid-30s there when that contract ends. But I don't think that's too much of a problem for a lot of teams, and for a team trying to get him, I don't think that would be much of a problem anyways. But the thing that is a problem when it comes to a potential trade for Phil Kessel is the modified no-trade clause on his contract. Now, he has a modified no-trade contract, or a trade clause on his contract, which means that for him specifically, he has to pick 8 teams that he would be available and he would want to be traded to. So, I think that was a reason why last year he was not traded to the Coyotes. I don't think Kessel wanted to go to the Coyotes, but if a team went after Kessel and Kessel wanted to go to that team, we could see a potential trade there. But I think that no movement clause, or at least modified no movement clause, is one of the reasons why he's still a Pittsburgh Penguin. Now, when it comes to potential teams that would inquire for Phil Kessel and potential teams that would want a guy like Phil Kessel, I'm going to list 3 teams that I think might be realistic and 3 teams that I think might go after him. Now, the first team I'm going to mention, I'm going to proceed with a little bit of caution on this. I'm going to first mention the Arizona Coyotes. Now, I think the reason why a trade didn't happen a year ago is because Kessel did not want to go to the Coyotes. But Coyotes, I think overall, in general, are playing a little bit better. It's more of a positive attitude in that locker room and, on the team in general. And I feel like Phil Kessel might change his mind, especially the Pittsburgh Penguins playing just a little bit worse. Now, I'm not sure if Phil Kessel wants to get traded anywhere, let alone the Arizona Coyotes, but I think a trade to Arizona could be a good fit. Now, you're going to see a trend in the trade kind of proposals that I propose here. Now, for the guys going back to Pittsburgh, I'm just going to say Phil Kessel is the one guy going back to Arizona. So in this trade, Phil Kessel would go to Arizona, and the guys going back to Pittsburgh would be Alex Goligoski, Kevin Connauton, and I would say a 2019 second and a 2019 third. Now, with Arizona, I don't think they're completely confident in getting their first up unless it's lottery protected, but I don't think they're going to give up their 2019 first. Otherwise, I think they'll give up some other picks, and a guy like Alex Goligoski could do a lot of things for that Pittsburgh defense that is basically struggling immensely right now, and they could definitely use a guy like Alex Goligoski, who even at age 33 is still a very serviceable NHL defenseman and could do a lot for the Pittsburgh Penguins, who I think Goligoski played for the Penguins in his past career. Now, if this trade were to happen, I think Pittsburgh would rather just have that 2019 first for the Arizona Coyotes, and maybe get a lottery pick there, who knows. But I think the main reason this trade will probably not happen, and it's more unrealistic, is, of course, Phil Kessel and the modified no-trade clause. I don't know if he's really sure about going to Arizona, and I think while Arizona might have a lot of interest in him, I'm not sure if Phil Kessel has interest in Arizona. The second team I'm going to mention is the Dallas Stars. Now, they're a team that I think could really work with Phil Kessel. Now, I'm not sure if the Dallas Stars need more star power. I would say that their issue is more depth, but if they were to go after Phil Kessel, I feel like they have some valuable pieces on the team that could fit for the Pittsburgh Penguins, and of course, the Pittsburgh Penguins need some defense. So that was the theme that I went with for this trade proposal. Now, when it comes to pieces that Dallas would have to give up, I first have Stephen Johns. Now, he's a defenseman. Currently, he's on IR. There's no current timetable on when he will come back, but I'm sensing that it's about maybe a month, maybe 2 months for that to happen. Stephen Johns, though, is a very solid defenseman, and I think he's kind of a guy that Pittsburgh might use well. I also have Matthias Janmark going out to Pittsburgh. He's a very fast guy, kind of like a Carl Hagelin, somewhat, but he's been a little bit snake-bitten so far this season. He's starting to pick up his groove in the last week, but I think he's a guy that might be shipped off as well. Maybe a 2019 first-round pick. I feel like that's something that the Dallas Stars will maybe have to give up in that trade. Again, it'll probably be a more later first-round pick if they do get Phil Kessel, but that's something I think they'll have to give up too. And I have plus Nichushkin written down, but I don't know if they'll have to go that far for that. But if the Pittsburgh Penguins are really asking for that much, Nichushkin might just have to be in there to seal a deal. And while there's no bona fide fantastic player in that deal going to Pittsburgh, I feel like there's some great spare parts, and Steven Johnson is an excellent defenseman. And with Pittsburgh, they've had a great story. They've had a great storyline with developing and drafting well. So who knows what they could do with that 2019 first? And if Dallas misses the playoffs, that could potentially be a lottery pick too. Now, the final out of the three, but I think the most interesting team out of the three here, I'm going to put the New Jersey Devils on here, and I think that a potential trade between the New Jersey Devils and the Pittsburgh Penguins, while they are rivals in the same division, I think it could definitely work for potentially both sides here. Now, the trade that I propose on here is something that I think could get done very easily. Now, the defensemen, when it comes to the New Jersey Devils, some of them have had very rough seasons so far. I look towards guys like Sammy Vatanen, Andy Green, Will Butcher has been kind of meh. But I think the guy that stands out on that blue line that's been having a pretty solid season has been Damon Severson. I think so far he has like 15 points. He's been pretty solid offensively. I think that's a guy that Pittsburgh might really want to use. And I have him going back to Pittsburgh. In that trade, I also have Pavel Zacha, and I also have New Jersey's 2019 first-round pick. And that's the guy, that's the trade that I have for Phil Kessel going to New Jersey. I think New Jersey would be very, very wise to go after Phil Kessel, to bring that scoring that they desperately need. And with New Jersey, they've obviously been lacking some of that. And while that's not their biggest weakness, I would say goaltending is maybe their biggest weakness. They need some more scoring right now, and Phil Kessel would definitely bring that. But in a potential Phil Kessel trade, Pittsburgh is going to be asking for defense practically no matter what. And I feel like Damon Severson is more on the offensive side when it comes to defensemen, but he can still bring some solid defense. And I feel like that's ultimately what Pittsburgh needs. You also got Pavel Zacha there, who has not been a good fit in New Jersey so far. He hasn't developed really right since he was picked top 10, I think, in the 2015 draft. Something like that. But I feel like in Pittsburgh, he can get a fresh new start, maybe become the Penguins' official third center, and he could work very, very well there. And I feel like having a new fresh start in Pittsburgh has done a lot of wonders for some other prospects, and might just do the same for a guy like Zacha. But again, when I look at this situation with Pittsburgh and Phil Kessel, while it has been a good fit so far this season, Pittsburgh might want to use a guy like Phil Kessel to trade him and to get some valuable assets back to really help their squad in general. And that's something that they need. The goaltending has not been great. The defense especially has not been good. And that's something they might want to shore up for a possible playoff run. And for Pittsburgh, that's something they might want to go after. Now, I'm not saying that they should trade Phil Kessel, but it's something that I think might help their team overall and would definitely help the defense if they were to get a steady defender back. Now, it's going to be interesting to see if we continue to see Phil Kessel in the rumors, or at least in the trade rumors, throughout the rest of the season, especially if Pittsburgh continues to keep falling in the standings and keep playing badly. We'll see if Phil Kessel continues to be in the rumors. I think there's going to be a big storyline throughout the season, especially if Pittsburgh does make the playoffs. We could see some big changes, and Phil Kessel could be one of the odd guys out to be traded. But of course, with this trade rumors video, I want to hear from you guys. Tell me down below in the comments what you think about this Phil Kessel rumor. Do you believe it? Do you think Phil Kessel will get traded? And of course, I want to hear your guys' trade negotiations. Which team do you think Phil Kessel will go to? And of course, which players will go back to Pittsburgh in a potential trade? Now, of course, if you guys want some more trade videos, you guys can watch this video where I talk about Ilya Kovalchuk, if a trade for Ilya Kovalchuk will happen soon. But of course, that is going up for you guys. If you guys did enjoy, make sure you like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell if you haven't already. Again, tell me down below your thoughts on this trade rumor and Phil Kessel's situation in Pittsburgh. And I'll see you guys later in the next video or stream. Goodbye.